Good morning, everyone. How are you? Welcome to Wednesday, our Success and Setbacks. And we are super excited to have Nathan Moore here today, who's a good morning. Welcome. This is Winning Wednesday, where we talk about success and setbacks. We have a special guest today, Nathan Moore, who's a financial planner. He's not only just a certified planner, but he's also a Kingdom certified planner. And so he has credentials in several areas. And he is known to not only do financial planning, but kind of Mother Teresa, if I can be honest. And so not only does he do, the work in the church, he also does this annual event where he hosts a high tea, if I can say, for several hundred women at no cost. They get massages and sandwiches. And so he really reminds women that self-care is the best care, right? And putting that as a priority. And then on top of that, he also does some ministry with the juvenile hall, and he volunteers every year at something we call Hume Lake, which Hume Lake is a Christian camp. And so he's an all-around good guy. And so when you tap on Nathan's shoulders, you get 1,000 of his crew. And so that's the type of person he is. He's just super helpful. And I can't say enough good things about him. And I honestly, you got to meet him. He's amazing. So he's going to talk to us about accountability, partnership, and how he uses that in his business to help his clients grow and succeed.
Awesome. We want to welcome everybody to this broadcast today. Like most of you that have been following us know, this is where we pull back the curtain and show the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the reason why we do this is so that way you that are on that entrepreneur journey don't think everything is always good. Sometimes we have those bad times, we have those ugly times, and be able to foster that strength to be able to fight back and take a stand. So we're just excited for today having Nathan here. So we're going to bring Nathan on right now. I want to welcome Nathan to this broadcast. Hello, Nathan.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I heard the introduction. I'm excited to meet this Nathan guy, and then I realized it was no pressure.
Oh, goodness.
How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. How are the two of you doing?
Doing great. Awesome. I'm just trying to make sure the sound is good. If the sound is good, people on the chat, please just type in sound is good on all mics so that we can get rolling for today. So I'll just give a few minutes for people to just respond in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, awesome.
I also want to add, Nathan is he's a connoisseur of coffee and like high tea. Like he loves tea. It's going to come from different parts of the world. It's not going to become necessarily in a tea bag. He's not a bougie tea drinker, but you are going to get a variety of tea. So.
Okay, we have somebody responding that sound is good, so we can kick off.
Awesome. Welcome. Hi, Ronnie. Good morning.
Wow. Okay, so now that we have Nathan here, we just tell us a little bit about yourself, just in a very small brief, so that people will know who's talking and we'll take off from there.
Yeah, sure. I'm the president of Agape Planning Partners, and I live in Fresno, California, and we work with clients throughout the United States. But here I have my wife and my 3 children and my 4 grandchildren. And my favorite fur baby, who everybody knows is my favorite kid, but nobody fights that anymore. But I love to help people. I love to be around others with good energy, and so I'm excited to have a conversation with the two of you today.
Awesome. So, when you heard about our series, what was the thought that came to your mind about success and setbacks? What's the first thing that just comes to your mind when you heard about the name of the series?
I think transparency is the very first thing that comes to mind, because oftentimes people put the portrayal of success out there, and it's accurate sometimes, but they never tell the backstory. And so when someone tries to go on their own entrepreneurial journey and they have their first setback and they think they're the only ones that have ever struggled, the only ones that have ever failed, because they never heard anybody else talk about their struggles or failures. So when I heard the title of the series, I thought it's great that, people are going to talk about both sides of the coins, because you can't spend a quarter without having both sides on it, right? So you can't go on this journey without seeing both sides before you start it.
I love that. I love what you said. And that key word there, transparency, as we're building this community, because success and setbacks is just one of the products we have, which is to actually just get to people, to be able to interview people like you and share the ugly side, the bad side behind the scene. But what we're trying to create is this environment where entrepreneurs can come together and learn from each other, collaborate, transparency. Sometimes we have that information in our head that sometimes there's setbacks, but when we see somebody else that have gone through it, it kind of challenges us. Like, oh no, I remember Nathan went through that, Leena went through that, Ade went through that. I'm going to keep pushing. So there's something far beyond just having information. But when you see role models that you admire, then inspires you that if they can go through that, I can go through it as well. So it's so essential. That's why this experience of bringing people together is so essential, and having that human connection. You can go on YouTube and find so much content, but there's a difference when someone like you comes to share about their story and their setbacks and things like that. So
Absolutely.
start off, we want to look at your success because the name says success and setbacks. What will you say one of the things you've really succeeded in life so far? It can be ministry, it can be business, it can be family.
I mean, both of my shoes match this morning. Does that count?
Yes.
It does count.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm in financial services industry, and I would say that our industry is one that has a high failure rate. So only 4% of people who enter this business survive after 4 years. So the fact that I've been doing it over 23 years, I would count that as a success. I think sometimes the definition of success is a moving target. But for me, it's the ability to get past and accomplish my goal is what allows me to say that I've been successful.
Awesome. While you're saying that word successful, could you please give the audience what the definition of success means to you? Because sometimes I think we have different definitions of what success really looks like. And that's where our disappointment steps in, because we may actually be successful, but we feel like we failed. So could you give what that looks like?
I mean, I think success is definitely introspective, because you have to decide what is it that you want to accomplish and did you accomplish it? There are a lot of successful people out there who don't consider themselves successful because they're measuring it against someone else. And sometimes the person they're measuring against considers themselves a failure, right? I had a chance to go to this workshop with these powerful CEO women, and the question was asked, have you ever felt imposter syndrome? And all 4 of the panelists who are running these Fortune 500 companies all said yes, right? And so here are people looking at them as being extremely successful. They're looking at themselves as though they haven't accomplished the things they wanted to accomplish yet. So for me, success is sitting down and figuring out the goals, the tasks, the progress you want to make. And then are you moving along that path? Are you accomplishing them on your journey?
Awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would say another thing that makes Nathan successful, if I can add, is he's really great at relationship building, and he's also very helpful to a lot of people. I mean, that's like his like one of his strongest pillars about him, I think, is that he values supporting people. And so hence when, I'm literally, I mean, if anything happened to Nathan, like 10,000 people would show up. It's not going to be good. So, because he has really impacted so many lives.
Wow.
And so, so a very special person. And then, I thought that, the topic around accountability partnership really resonates with your business, because, so what would you say, Nathan? So when you talk about your business, right? How do you use accountability for each of your clients, and what do they do, and where do you see the failure rate at with that?
Yeah, I mean, financial planning, I've been doing this 23 and a half years. I'm a certified financial planner. I'm a certified Kingdom advisor. I have all these designations, all this stuff I've learned. And the reality is anybody can get everything that's in my head in a couple of clicks on a keyboard, right? So financial planning is not as much about the knowledge that I have, and more so about holding people accountable to the goals they set for themselves. Because financially, we can justify anything in a millisecond. But when you got Nathan sitting on your shoulder saying, hey, do you really want to spend money on that? You told me you wanted to go and establish this business. That's really what it comes down to. So being that coach, being that advisor, ultimately is understanding what someone's goal is, but then more importantly, holding them accountable to that goal.
Okay.
You told me what you can accomplish, so I'm going to hold you to give me an account of what you've accomplished. And if not, then what do we need to change to make sure you can accomplish it?
That's awesome. Yeah.
And
While you were talking about accountability, I was just thinking about the fact that, when we come into a family as a child, right, we're accountable to our parents, and they set boundaries and say this is when you should get up, and it also changes with the age, right? When you're little, you wake up anytime, they say the child is actually in control, you know what I mean? Like he wakes up the parents, and so we go through these transitions, and then when we now be by ourselves, we still have this people that we have to be responsible to. And I think some of the times one of the challenges is when we go into entrepreneurship, which is the audience we're really targeting and we're talking to, right? Because as an entrepreneur, if you don't have someone to report to, you're the CEO, it's so easy to just say, I'll do this, and then forget you need to do that, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas in an employee setting, you have employee and you have your boss, and you have to, call into work early, report to that person. As a matter of fact, you have hierarchy, right? You have responsibilities and reports. So this accountability becomes even more obvious in a place of entrepreneurship, And so I'm wondering what advice you give to entrepreneurs, how to create that opportunity to have accountability without through, getting coaches and mentors. What do they need to do, and how do they implement that?
Yeah, my degree in psychology, so I love the human mindset. I love human behavior, and I got that degree so I can understand my own craziness, right? But what I've learned is that right now we're facing this crisis of isolation, and so we can work remote, we can work from home, and so we're missing that accountability piece. And as entrepreneurs, it's easy to justify why you shouldn't make that phone call, why you shouldn't send that next email, and having someone to hold you accountable is what gets you over that hump, gets you through that mode. There's a study on the brain that says the brain's very nature is to use as little energy as possible, conservation. And so procrastination is a real thing because the brain is saying, no, let's sit there and do nothing so we can preserve our energy, because we don't know if we're going to get another meal. We don't know if we're going to have to fight or flight. And you need somebody to knock at the door to say, no, put the shoes on, let's get up and go. I think about the word accountability and I break it apart. And really what it's saying is, like, Leena, I'm giving an account to Leena of what I'm able to do, accountability. And then Leena could then question and say, okay, show me the results. Because you told me what you can do. You told me what you're able to do. You told me what you want to do. Now show me those results. Yeah. If I don't have someone on the other side asking me about the results, I don't have to give an account of my books.
I have a question, Addie. I have to ask him. So, because so I will say people who have financial planners, I think that they're very serious about their goals. I mean, right. And so, and using finance or financial, their different financial tools for them to reach their objectives. And so I want to edify you, Nathan. So I remember when high tea, and it's, so if you imagine it's high tea, there's a white, tent, because God forbid we get sunburned, right? So, but it's on this vineyard, and there's like I want to say the Vidhin, or like a statue, like a, faith in the center, right? And so the ladies, she owns a property, right? It's a gorgeous vineyard, and she's like, welcome to my property, right? And welcome to this high tea. She's very humble. I think you play tennis together. And there's several hundred women there. They're getting massages throughout the property. They're having like mini sandwiches, right? Tea, and it's just very beautiful. There's vendors. And so you're pouring back into small businesses. And why I say that is because she literally just points to you and says, just so you know, like, all this is because of working with Nathan. I'm like, dang, it wasn't from tennis. Okay. So I'd love to hear, like, what kind of goals do you help your clients reach? Because I know that's one of many successful endeavors. And I know not all goals not necessarily have to do with property per se. So what would that be?
Adi talked about how when we're kids, we can set our own schedule. And when we're kids, we're taught to daydream, right? Think about what you want, envision what you want. And somewhere in life, we're told, grow up and don't dream anymore. And so the problem with financial planning is we don't dream about what we want that future life to look like. So my job as a planner is just to sit down with the client and say, what does your future look like? What does retirement look like? It's not always a financial number. It's not always I want to have $25 million. Sometimes it's I want to be debt free and I want to work part-time as a librarian. So we're looking to say, okay, what are your passions? What is your why? What do you have? What are the resources you have to get you there? And if there's a gap, what do we need to do to fill that gap? But more importantly, it should be your goal. And then when you're on the journey to that goal, you won't let anything derail you. If it's my goal, it's easy for you to get off course. So we really work with our clients to say, why are you doing all of this? Why is it important to you? And then how do we use the tool, the money, the retirement account, the investments to help you accomplish those goals? Oftentimes people think financial planning leads with the investments and the dollars. It really doesn't. Those are just tools to help you accomplish the goals that you put into your heart.
That's awesome. I'm digging the library job.
And you can tell that was a little glimpse into mine. I want to be like 20 hours a week as a librarian, 20 hours a week as a barista in like Costa Rica or Cuba or the Dominican Republic. So that's my retirement goal right there.
It's awesome, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So when we say, the title of this stream says the hidden catalyst for impact and growth. So that means it's possible for it to be hidden, right? It's this thing that can be invisible. And I think that's one of the things we struggle with, right? Because we don't really see the behind the scenes that this man that is out here actually has a mentor. And, when they're talking, they may not talk about the mentor, right? They may not talk about this, what actually keeps this person going, and it's important to actually understand how this can affect your growth, affect your impact. So can you talk a little bit more on how accountability actually examples or stories, of how it has impacted people's growth or impact?
Yeah, I mean, so I wish there's a visual I've seen of this gentleman who has an axe and he's chiseling away trying to find this diamond mine, and he's chiseling. Finally, he just gives up, and he's one stroke away from hitting that diamond mine. So when I think about accountability, it's so many layers to it. It's the people who are in the trenches, people who are in the corner with you that's going along on the journey. So for me, some of my accountability partners start off as people that were mentors of mine, and then we become friends, but we're still along that journey together. And then they hold me accountable to make sure that I reach back and find a mentee to bring along, because the information has to flow from one to the other. If it comes to me and it doesn't get dispersed to anybody else, I'm not being a good steward of that information. So when I think about accountability, I think about that person who was ready to shut down their business, and you encouraged them to make one more phone call or schedule one more appointment, and that was the appointment that changed everything. Or that single mother who doesn't think that she can go back to school because her schedule doesn't work, and you introduce her to a school counselor to show her how the schedule can work along with her schedule. And now she's graduating with a degree she never thought she would have. So, Adi, you talked about that human connection. It's like we each have a puzzle piece that we can fill in someone else's puzzle. So we should be walking around and looking for that opportunity to fit in that puzzle piece to make their puzzle complete. We don't have to worry about our own puzzles, because if we're doing it right, someone else is looking out for you. You're looking out for that next person, and it makes a complete circle and it makes a complete picture.
Okay, just for
Beautiful.
fun's sake, just to I'm going to bring up an image and tell me if that's the image right there.
That's it right there.
I like it, right?
That's exactly it. You never know how close you are to it, right?
Yeah, it's so interesting. At the early stage of entrepreneurship, I had this concept of trying to hide everything, the secrets of entrepreneurship, and trying to do everything myself. And I took pride in trying to do it myself. And what happens eventually is that you get drained. And unfortunately, some of us don't discover it until 5 years later, or 3 years later, or 10 years later. And you've caused so much damage. Some things you could have finished in a year or 3 months, 6 months, because we just don't see the need for accountability. And that's why there's a book that Leena and I are actually working on, and it's called I'm Not Self-Made. And it's this ideology of like, oh, I'm self-made. And so much is pushed out there now that you want to showcase yourself that this is what I was able to do by myself. But nobody really does anything by themselves. Even the knowledge, what you have, you get it from somebody else. So we should actually encourage that even more, where we celebrate the people in our lives and appreciate the work that they've done in our lives, the heart of gratitude, and honoring those people in our lives. So I think it's so essential to talk about that. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I agree 100%. I had the privilege of speaking to a real estate firm earlier this year, and we were talking about the concept of going beyond, and why should we go beyond to help others. And so I think about the introduction that Leena gave, and she talked about me volunteering with the mentoring the kids and going into juvenile hall, and I like to camp, and I like to fish and I like to do all these outdoor things. And what I shared at that presentation was all of that were seeds that were planted in me at first grade. My best friend Ian, his father pretty much adopted me. And so wherever he took Ian, he took me, and he was showing me these things. And it was just me watching Mr. Gordon do all these things that planted the seed that ultimately sprouted later on for why I'm doing all these things. And so when people say you're doing such great things, it's kind of like, well, yeah, thank you, but it's because of Mr. Gordon. I didn't realize it at the time until I was in it, and I'm like, oh, that does make sense. That's why I'm doing that. So it's important for us to reflect along all the spectrums of our lives to see where our passions lie, where our interests lie, because once we see that, it becomes easy to make the time and energy and effort to help others, hold others accountable, help others along their goals, because you're now working in your lane. So it doesn't take as much energy when you're doing things you're passionate about. You won't see me, mentoring a bunch of sumo wrestlers, even though I look like I can be one. I'm passionate about, right? So, but you talk about the tea parties and the tea time. I love tea and coffee, so naturally I'm going to be passionate about that. Mentoring the young men, I love that because I was mentored as a young man. So these are things that are really easy to do and just don't take much energy.
That's awesome. So could you give us, because on this stream we like to talk about the ugly side. So could you talk about that?
We do. Real ugly.
We like to be transparent as much as we can. I'm a leader, and in different spaces. So most times we want to show our strength. So that they can follow us. Hey, here I am. I'm strong. I'm not, I'm moving in the right direction. I cannot even fail them. So I have to go in this right direction, right? I need to know what to do at all times. Could you share with us maybe just one instance of an ugly time where you know what you need to do, but you really didn't do it? It became messy, it failed you. Just one instance of something like that.
Well, we talk about the transparency, and what I've learned is that we don't be transparent because we feel like we're going to be judged by others. And the reality is, you will always be judged by others. There's always going to be somebody that's going to criticize what you're doing, the good, the bad, or the ugly. However, there are hundreds that can be moved and encouraged and motivated by what you share. So I believe that my life is a testimony to be shared, and many of my challenging experiences, some have to do with my own boneheadedness, but others have been because, I feel like God wanted me to go through that to share with others to make sure they don't go through it. And so I don't shy about, 2005, 6, 7, I had several other businesses that I was building up. I had my financial planning practice and it was doing great. And so I started parlaying it into other businesses. And we had a women's gym franchise. We had a real estate development corporation. And all of those came crashing down in 2007 in the Great Recession. And people would be like, wait a minute, you're the financial planner. How are you not prepared for this? And I can give all the reasons why, but the reality is it was my responsibility to take care of these obligations and liabilities that fortunately the timing of those businesses, they didn't pan out, but the debts were personal liabilities. And so I had to pay them off over time, and it took a long time to settle everything up. But when I tell people that story, there's always that person that's saying, what kind of advice can you give me as a financial planner when you didn't even know, how to predict or see this or protect these businesses? Well, hey, enjoy it, have at it, criticize all you want. For every person that said it, I've had 10 people that have come up and said, thank you for sharing because I'm going through something similar. What did you do? How did you get to the other side? How did you stay motivated? How did you not give up? How did you not file bankruptcy and just walk away from all of it? And I've helped more than the number of people who are criticized. So I'll always be transparent. One thing I will say about transparency, though, is that not everyone has the maturity for you to be fully transparent. So don't just show everything to everyone. You don't want to waste that testimony. Make sure you're sharing places that it actually can be benefited.
I truly, truly love that. And just coming from scriptures as well, for me personally, it said, do not throw your jewels to the pigs because they will trample on it and they'll run after you. And so the outcome of why you're doing it now is lost, And so being able to be wise to know when and how, because there's also when there was times where those things happened that you couldn't really talk about it. And then there's a point where you begin to get confident to share it. So don't just run along and start sharing everything. Oh, come and see everything. You have to be wise in doing that. Yeah.
And one of the things I learned out of that is kind of, I feel like we're all going to have our setback moments, right? And so if you're going to have them, it's a gift to have them early enough to have time to recover from them. Because I have people that walk in here that have their setbacks at 75 and 80, and it might be hard for them to recover, right? So if you're fortunate enough to have it early, then celebrate that and make sure you share those lessons with others to prevent them from going through it, but also prevent yourself from getting back into it, because fast forward to 2023, I don't carry credit card debt whatsoever. I don't finance businesses with lines of credits and loans like I did in 2005 and 6 and 7. So I learned that message early enough to apply it to the rest of my life.
That is so key, so important. And I love what you said, which I would just want to reiterate in a different way also, is that take risks early. And I think that was one of the things that compelled me to actually take risks early. I've been an entrepreneur for over 20 years now. And I said, man, if I'm going to do it, I better do it now. If I'm going to make mistakes, I better make the mistakes now, that to do it later and maybe affect more people. Right now, it may just affect me. I was single and, I could not have a roof over my head if that's what it took. And it actually happened. My car was repossessed. And I can't do all that while I'm married. Like so I had to do those things early. And so do not be afraid to step out early so that you can learn those lessons quicker. Yeah. So,
and if I can add one thing to that, early is not based on age, right? So even somebody who's 50 and still has 15, 20 years of working years ahead of them, if you try it now, you are still starting early because you have time to recover. Sometimes people say, well, I'm not 21 anymore. I'm not 25 anymore. No, that's not based on age. Really, it's based on your working timeline and how many years do you have left to actually produce. So.
I love that.
Yeah.
Leena, do you have other questions?
I was listening to that part of the story. I remember when you told me that about what happened in 2005, which I'm like, everybody was impacted, right? I'm like, I mean, I knew friends who didn't pay their cars and bought a BMW or pay their houses. And they're like, oh, I bought a BMW, I bought a boat. And I'm like, okay, are we selling? What are we doing? It sounds a little illegal, right? And so people were making rash decisions. I mean, no one could predict that. And I remember it did give me a higher admiration for you. I was like, oh, you've been through some things, right? Because it really shows like you've had to walk on fire, essentially, right? And so to me, that brings more credibility, because if you're too polished, I'm like, some behind that. So that ain't gonna work. So one thing I wanna ask you this question, because I know you exercise it well. What does intentionality mean to you, and how do you use it in your practice?
Yeah, that's a big question. I just feel, once again, part of our challenge in our society, separate from isolation, is that we have distraction and we don't have time to actually focus on who we are or what's important to us. At the beginning of this year, I had a chance to do a 10-day silent retreat, and you want to talk about introspection at all track. I was
tell the story, Nate. Be honest, because you didn't have no dinner. Don't forget.
No, it was like 10 days, no books, no pens, no paper, no journaling, no technology, no music, no
what?
Anybody else, and no dinner. You have breakfast and lunch and no dinner, but even no exercise, because exercise is a form of distraction. But what it did was it gave you 18, 19, 20 hours a day just with you and your thoughts, right? And that's a scary proposition, because imagine doing 18 therapy sessions a day for 10 days straight, right? But it was the best thing ever. It was the worst thing ever for the first 4 or 5 days. And then I'm like, I'm here. It feels like Mr. Miyagi. I finally realized why I was doing all the car washing. But I bring that up because we all need to take time. It doesn't have to be as extreme as the 10-day silent retreat, but we need to take time for that introspection, because we can't be intentional if we're not operating from the core. I believe that we are all still on earth to interact with others. That's the only reason we're still here. Every blessing that I've ever received has been delivered by another person. And so, if you believe in God, God sends the blessing to you, but he uses others as the conduit for it to be.
Say that again. I think you need to say that part again.
Every blessing that I've received has used a human being to deliver it, right? Whether it was the financial blessing of a check that the mail person delivered, whether it was the doctor who gave a healing report, whether it was the friend who gave encouragement. So intentionality is really that selfish desire to be involved in as many blessings as possible, right? Like I want to be that conduit and change as many lives as I possibly can.
Amen.
Right now, we've created a society that's self-consumed, right? Not selfish. I have a lot of people around me that if I tell them I need help, they will drop things to help me. But if I don't tell them, they won't even notice it because they're
Woo!
consumed with their own challenges. So intentionality is saying, even if I'm in the midst of my own world, I need to be looking for opportunities to make a difference for someone else. And it can be as small as, Leena is the queen of this. It can be a text introduction to two people who need to know one another, right? Or it can be you picking up somebody and driving them to a workshop and paying their registration fee that they wouldn't be able to attend. There's a wide range of it, but you want to be intentional to say, this is the goal. I'm going to do what I need to do to make it happen. And that can't happen if you don't look inside to see, once again, where's that core why, purpose, belief for you to launch your intentionality.
That's awesome.
Wow, that's amazing. I think what I just picked up from what you said right now is that difference between selfish and selfless. Because sometimes we think that is the same thing, but it's really, if I'm going to put it in simple English, less of yourself. You know what I mean? Like, so not being consumed with self. I just love that. I think a few years ago, I defined influence as in, after you've gathered all this knowledge, all this wisdom, you've done so much, where you actually now empty yourself selflessly to others. That's true influence, because now you're transferring, like, look, I'm there for you. Not that, oh, let me be an influencer, like they say. Like it's just to get fame, but true influence where you're emptying yourself. And I feel like strongly that statement that says that, not going to the grave with your gifts or treasures. That's how we don't go to the grave with the treasures, where you empty yourself into others. And people are able to replicate the same thing all across the globe. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
But don't you feel, though, that I think some people's hesitancy to empty themselves is because they're fearful of not being refilled, right? Because they're not around people. And so we've all had that moment where you've emptied yourself out and you're drained and you look around and there's nobody looking to pour back into you. So it's important to make sure you're surrounding yourself with like-minded people. That it's like Mr. Gordon to me, to the boys that I mentor, it's just one continuous stream and flow. We don't want to have this proverbial Dead Sea where the water comes in and then it sits stagnant. We want to have this waterfall where it's going from one body to the next and keep on moving down the stream. Pour out, but make sure you're also finding sources to pour right back into you. Otherwise, you have nothing else to pour out and empty.
I love that.
I'm going to interject here if I can, because, and it resonated because I just asked Nathan this in person a few weeks back. And I said, Nathan, what do you do if I get like 4 to 5 requests a month about meeting to, people wanting to meet, right? And, I want to know your career trajectory. How did you become who you are today? And then sometimes I don't hear back from them. Like, so I give them my hour, I share my story. And do you recall what you said back to me? You want to share that?
So if you have the capacity to give it, keep giving it, because those are people that can be commercials in the future. Those are people that may share and never report back to you. I think I even gave you the analogy of the 10 lepers, and the 10 lepers that were killed, and only one came back and said thank you, but the others still had better lives because of the healing. So if you have the capacity, give it. But if you don't have the capacity, then choose who you give it to.
Yeah, and I think one of the things you shared is like, you also don't know, which I thought was powerful because it came out in another interview that we did a few weeks ago. And you shared that you don't know where, that kindness, right? You're extending yourself, where that's going to lead along the path. It could lead. And so you had shared something about how even led to, the guy wasn't a client and it was the dad, doing estate planning. I was like, praise the Lord. That was awesome, right? So I think kindness and grace plays a critical role in who we are as leaders. I think definitely the intentionality. But I really liked how you answered it because I was in my Leena, like rolling my neck, like, what you do when people be calling you outside?
and come out and hang up on them.
Right? And you were like, girl, give them your time. Be kind. I'm like, okay, my bad. Okay, let me roll it back. I think it was in a moment. And so because I think not everybody's great at building relationships, right? And so, or it could be other things like they don't know you're busy, so I just didn't reach out again, or there's all these other assumptions. I think it's important to just continue to be a good person and send that out. So awesome. So what would you say? Nathan, makes you why people sign up with you as a business owner?
Well, it's
I don't think it's free tea. I'm pretty sure.
It sounds like you tooting my own horn. But the main reason that most people choose to use me as an advisor is because they feel like they're heard. They share stuff with me, and I remember it, I recall it, I apply it versus it coming in one ear and out the other. I'll give one example. I have a client who we were on a board together, and this casual conversation came up about their dream car and how they want to have this dream car and they want to walk out into the garage and see this dream car. Well, I can't give this person their dream car. I'll be violating all kind of laws and rules, right? So, but what I can do is I had this beautifully framed photo of the dream car, matted with an inscription put on there saying, one day you will walk in and you'll see this car in this garage, and ship that to the individual. And at this next board meeting, they were talking about it and how grateful they were. But a couple of people were like, "Oh, I didn't know that was your dream car," and they were on the same call when it was originally shared, right? So it's that paying attention and just hearing people and not just asking a question and just preparing for your next question, but asking a question and receiving the response. And so if I would summarize it, I think that's the main reason why people choose to work with me, is because they feel like they're heard and they can see that they're heard through the advice and the action that I take.
Awesome. That is so awesome. At this point, I would think we want to leave room for questions. So I'm going to I posted the link that is scrolling across the screen. You can join with that link, or also can join with, I posted it also in the chat room. So you can just click on that link. That will allow you to join us and ask the question you have. So we'll give a few minutes for that while music plays. And we're hoping that we can get some more questions in. That'll be awesome.
That's great.
Okay, let's get the music rolling.
So you can see I talk to Nathan with my neck sometimes. Like, you know what? He's like, that's a real thing.
You get to think.
Yeah. Oh!
We're taking it way back.
Goodness.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, goodness.
I didn't put the snaps in there, though,
Okay. Just give a few minutes. I'm trying to check the chat room if there's anybody there. Okay, so while we're waiting for anyone that wants to come on, don't be shy. Get on camera. We'll be wrapping up now. Since there've been times we have broadcasts, we have multiple people have questions, and so that's why we kind of leave some room, like 15 minutes, for the question and answers. So tell us something fun about you.
A lot of things.
So be careful what you ask. I have Phantom of the Opera, Fiddler on the Roof, fully memorized verbatim, and I sing them both often when I'm driving down the road. Yeah, so I'm kind of an opera geek, or a musical geek.
Wow.
Tupac in there too, so don't get it twisted, But I like to sing some musicals as loud as I can sing, and I don't care who can hear me or who can see me.
I love what you just said now, the last part, because I was going to ask you to sing some part of it.
Yeah. Nope, I'm shy.
You just said you don't care. I'm going to hold you accountable for that.
Again with me, a strange duet. That's from Phantom of the Opera right there. See?
Oh,
Hold on. Take
that's
yourself
awesome.
rolling in right now. Now, here's a disclaimer. I'm a musician, so I can
Yeah.
do the right note. That doesn't mean it's going to sound good, but it will be in tune. So that's the first prize.
I love that. I love that. All right. Awesome. Awesome. It's really great having you here, Nathan. You've really shared some insights on the importance of accountability, and we would love to connect with you even more than just being on this broadcast. So we'll get back with you after this broadcast and talk with you about Cobble Tree. Cobble Tree is actually a community we're developing. We've not launched yet. We're going to be launching early next year. And it's just to create that opportunity for people to come together, especially entrepreneurs, and challenge ourselves with the right culture. And for us, it's kingdom culture. And part of the kingdom culture is actually accountability and revenue and results and applauding each other. So we have all these, things that we're putting into our language and also into the culture of building this community of entrepreneurs that will thrive together. So thank you so much. We've really been blessed having you here, sharing these insights on why accountability is so important, sharing your stories, being transparent. We truly appreciate it. Thank you so much, Nathan.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate the two of you and what you're working on here. Thank you.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Awesome. So I'm looking in the chat. I don't see anybody wanting to get on. Maybe they're shy, like Nathan was shy and singing. So we're gonna just wrap up this stream. We're gonna wrap up this stream, and we're so grateful for you joining us. Go ahead and share this in your network, and someone may be blessed. Someone may even learn from this. Don't hold it back. Don't say, "Oh yeah, I've gotten this treasure for myself." Share the treasure with other people. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you.
Thank you.